This video is going to be all about Palantir, no exceptions. I know how I usually talk about Palantir and kind of intertwine that with the SPX. So not today. Today I'm actually going to make two separate videos. This one is going to be utterly and completely focused on Palantir. So it's going to be, double the excitement, triple the action, that kind of thing. Really what I want to do today, I want to focus on Palantir, and then you'll have a separate video talking about what it is that's going on with the market and what it is that I'm expecting to see and how the two things are correlated. You'll be able to see. Of course, I will mention the indices and the overall market by sort of bypassing when we're going to be explaining and talking about Palantir here. So let's get straight into this. So yeah, I know what you're seeing looks very scary. Also, I hope my sound is good and you can hear me and all that great stuff. Also, before we continue, if you guys don't mind, real quick, press the subscribe and like button, just like on Tom's. You can see here my good friend Tom Nash here. Don't forget to put the bell, the notifications on all, otherwise you will not be informed. And it's the same thing as almost like basically not keeping up with like driving and not keeping up with the road. So guess what, whenever I will inform or say something more up to date with regards to Palantir, you'll simply not know that I am posting, and then you'll still have the old thesis in mind. So you got to have it this way. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Definitely subscribe to my friend Tom Nash's channel if you are not there yet. And of course, don't forget to put the notifications to all, like I just said. So let's get on with the video. All right. So yeah, I know it looks all scary with Palantir, but we are looking at the quarterly chart right now, and yeah, that's kind of what we've seen. And yeah, it's not going to be that straightforward. I know everybody's panicking, so well, it depends on you whether you want to panic or not. I'm just going to tell you what it is that I'm seeing from the standpoint, from the technical analysis standpoint, and you do with it as you please, right? At the end of the day, that's kind of how it works. Join my community, you'll know more. I keep my community up to date on the daily basis. So let's quickly switch to the 1 minute chart, which don't forget, we are having some price action going on in the futures today, but these will not actually register into the price action or the pre-post market of Palantir and the various other assets until tomorrow. So basically that is kind of redundant stuff, and in reality, since I'm not going to switch over to the indices, what we are seeing is basically gonna sum itself up with the opening up where we closed roughly. So it's kind of meaningless, right? About 99% that's what's going to happen. We're going to talk about that later in the next video. For right now, well, yes, the channel is pointing downwards, but wait, it's not that straightforward. Nothing is all that simple. Nothing is just all that straightforward, linear in one single direction. There are corrections in the market. First of all, objectively looking right now at the 5 minutes, although of course it may change and slightly adjust as we go into the pre-market tomorrow, or rather overnight for me. So let's try to look at the bigger picture of things instead of hyper focusing on what is the very tight-knit sort of neighborhood of the price action for the following maybe day or two. Let's look at the bigger, broader picture. Maybe there is more hidden in there that we can see right away. For example, as you can see now on the chart, we have two channels. One of them is very narrow, one of them is very wide, and objectively we can say we've been moving along this channel, and we broke down within this channel, kind of we penetrated back into the channel that we actually have acknowledged prior, but that's a whole separate story. The bigger story here to be sort of attentive to is to notice, again, I'm probably out of the camera as always, I tend to do, we have this channel, right? We have this wider channel, the broader moving average sort of range, and it does look like we're establishing right now a bit of a sideways price action altogether, although it is very wide. Yes, it's wide because we're zoomed in and we're merely on the 30 minutes. If we just zoom out just a little bit and remember that on the broader spectrum of the head and shoulders that we are seeing in terms of scale, right, in terms of what actually is going on, in terms of harmonic behavior of that very price action, as you can see, we're talking about basically nothing, where we're kind of too stuck in that very narrow neighborhood. In fact, that's part of the thing I would like to prevent us from doing. Let's look at the broader picture. Well, Greg, on that broader picture, you're having this line going up. Is that the case? Well, kind of, sort of, actually. Like, look, for example, since we're already at the 4-hour range, try to ignore my beautiful drawing right there. Pay attention to the momentum. The momentum is bullish, about to penetrate the 50 range, which kind of indicates where our bullish and bearish momentum separate. So simply by going into over that 50 range will become even more bullish. So there is a buildup of bullish momentum on the longer range of things. If we're attentive, first of all, we have a potential top here to be retested, a potential resistance, as we can see what was a support here, then became resistance right here. If we want to be objective about that level, it's that 143.71 level, which actually played the role of the support in this instance. So yeah, it's not going to be out of the imagination. Even if we break out of this trend that we're seeing in the background, it's not going to be out of the imagination, not out of the ordinary, to see the price action testing that very level, kind of moving into a negative wedge, if you will, to an inverted funnel, very similar to what we actually seen before. Again, what we've tested here, we're going to test it here. So similarly, we end up testing it here, and very much so like we've seen before, the price action can slip out of these ranges. There's a wider range that is being observed at this process, right? There's a wider range than what you're seeing currently, a little hyper focused on. So let's go to the larger time frames, see what larger time frames are saying. In fact, the larger time frame, which is the daily, we in fact are already above that 50 range. So in fact, we are technically already bullish. It is kind of you know, in and out in that sense that we're having this mixed sort of momentum, and it makes sense, actually makes sense, which I will highlight in my following video about the market. I kind of expected the market to behave that in that shifty way as we went into a long weekend, which I absolutely forgot about. I was completely absolutely certain until the weekend itself that we're actually going to be going back to trading on Monday, and I was absolutely wrong. I completely forgot about President Day. High salute to President Trump. Love the guy. He's not the best on the planet, but he's the best we can have. And we, I mean globally, we, especially the Americans. Love you all, my American friends. Salute. Now, so what are we looking at? Again, let's continue. The weekly actually is having what appears to be some confluence, some convergence, divergence right here coming up sometime soon. We are in oversold territory, so technically we are very bearish, but I will say something that is very important, I think, that will play part of the narrative that you got to assess. Sort of, you got to take the whole picture and not the parts you like about the story, right? You take the whole story in, not the parts not only the parts you like. So realistically speaking, Palantir appears to be far ahead of the market. And again, I will refer to that, to how and where the market is. In fact, you know what, just to throw a little tidbit right there if I can. The market, as we said, is still at its flattening process, basically at arguably the peak, and there is still more downwards to be had, and in fact corrections within that framework. Of course, I'm not saying that's how long it's going to take. This is just general guidance to explain what is expected. In fact, of course, yes, we do know the price action tends to break faster than it sort of climbs, right? We depreciate in value faster than we appreciate in value, but no one says that then you will not be able to move sideways for multiple months and retesting these levels again and again and again. So don't just assess this as, you know, hit and run kind of thing. That's not how things work. Right. So, given how far ahead Palantir is, and arguably it would make just logical sense from the standpoint of the cyclicality and the overall behavior of the asset. More so, it's not like Palantir is a bad company. If anyone here has an idea of that I dislike Palantir or I'm a Palantir hater, I have advocated for Palantir many times. I just go bananas whenever I see people talk shit about Palantir and don't understand that, well, literally our westernized way of life and security depends on it. Honestly, I'll say it as simple as it freaking gets. Okay, listen carefully. If you're not a terrorist, if you don't have like bad shit in mind, you really shouldn't worry about Palantir. And trust me, Palantir really does not have any clue to which corn you watch with a P, right? They really don't give a flying fuck, trust me. I mean, you can just watch people like CodeStrap and various other people who actually have the expertise in what Palantir do, and not crazy people. Look, I love Mutahar. Mutahar has an amazing channel on YouTube. I hope I'm not going to have issues with him because I've mentioned his name. Mutahar, salute to you. Great videos, but you're utterly wrong about Palantir. Do your research. You do not don't understand how Palantir works at all, how it was structured, and I highly recommend you do more proper due diligence, more proper research, so you understand how that actually works. Now, Palantir is a great company. I, in fact, think right now, no one can replicate nor become the second Palantir, simply because Palantir was trained by a whole bunch of data that was given to them. It's not sensitive data as much as people realize, and again, individual people in Palantir have no clue to the actual individuals or the tidbits of the information. Most of they had great supervision from the government when they were doing this training. At the end of the day, the data itself was basically old and not that sensitive. Again, the government will not give Palantir access to any sensitive data. That's the whole idea. In fact, that's kind of the principle. Palantir give them the service, they give them the wrench, and what the army or military or government do with that wrench is their business. You know, whether they fix their sink or go to hit the neighbor on the head, it's, you know, the government's choice, right? So Palantir really do not get exposed to any data. So anyone here that thinks that I'm not an advocate, nor do I love Palantir, first of all, I made money off trading Palantir back in the day many times before and quite successfully, and I am planning to do so again, and I am planning to invest in Palantir, basically sort of reopen a long-term position in Palantir once the conditions will allow. And yes, just like the thumbnail says, I really do think that Michael Burry is right in his assessment, and we are looking at handles of 30, 40-ish. Again, it's not certain. We are yet still headed in that direction. And don't think that you're going to wake up tomorrow and, well, it's 30. No. In fact, I just already made a video. If you haven't watched that, go to my channel and watch my previous video about Palantir. And I've stated very clearly that we're going to first hit these 130 levels again, as you already saw in the 1 minute time frame. You can see the support resistance levels are absolutely accurate and completely just irrefutable. I mean, come on. You have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to be able to see that these levels are acknowledged every single time we pass through, every single time we intertwine within these levels. These levels are absolutely accurate. You can see all the levels. There are multiple, of course. Some of them are stronger than others. Some of them are generated via a particular type of forces. Some of them are generated from another whole set of technical tools. Some of them are psychological and various other things that come together to combine this sort of structure that the price action works its way within, right? So, by the way, yeah, join the community. Now there are still discounted prices. In fact, if I can bring it in right here real quick, it still is $50, boys and girls. At the end of this month, this $50 tier will become a $70 tier, so definitely join now before it does become a $70 tier. At the end of next month, it'll become a $99 tier, a $100 tier, if you will. Which, by the way, why would you want to join the community? Because my community is up to date, and I keep them the most up to speed with daily charts, daily updates, monthly meetings. Some of them get weekly meetings. It depends if you're in the one-on-one academy or not. If you're a graduate of the academy, there's like a lot of different variables in that. So how many, how much stuff you get, but irregardless, you get a lot of stuff, a lot of information, a lot of updates, directly my thoughts, my analysis, my charts. You even want to see, if you want to, you can even see my positions and various other conversations we have about the market. About, for example, if I just can bring my thing right there into the light, something that I think everyone may find somewhat interesting and important. One of my members, Wazaka, shout out to you, you legend, posted something very important, something that I've actually said, boys and girls, we are during a government shutdown, and I've said the reports are going to be inaccurate. They are as trustworthy as some women's physique nowadays, if you will, right? So the revision, it appears to be, so breaking job numbers were revised down by 1,000,000, well, let's just call it 1,030,000 jobs in 2025, the largest annual revision at least 20 years. So as you can see, the numbers are not trustworthy. I wouldn't trust the numbers at all. This follows downwards revision of 800,000 and 818,000 in 2024 and 306,000 in 2023. In total, 2,153,000 jobs revised altogether. So generally, boys and girls, just kind of to highlight that the numbers you're getting about the job sector is about hirings, firings, and all that great stuff are utter bullshit. Do not trust that. But that's definitely one more reason why you should join the community. And here it is, by the way, just to kind of highlight, every single day we talk about this. I update my community on the every single daily basis, how things are expected, then I follow up on them. As you can see, I start early in the morning. I usually do some analysis. I of course write my expectations. I explain what it is that I'm showing, from picture to picture, of course, unless it's understood. So I highly recommend you join the community before it gets more expensive and you miss out. And I definitely recommend you ask about the one-on-one academy, which I have very few spots left for right now. Actually, I have 2 spots. I have a booked spot, right? Something that is currently the student already, of course, paid to book a spot, to reserve a spot, but then it's not going to be available for a little bit longer. So there are still 2 spots to join easily. Reach out to me, and of course I will let you know what it entails, what it gives, and so on and so on and so on. Now I think I went too long about this sort of stuff. Let's continue back into the video, right? It doesn't do what I want. Okay, I'll just leave it there. Okay, so Palantir, boys and girls, we're on the larger time frames. So the trick here is that we are actually seeing that there is a buildup of upwards momentum. So as I said, I wouldn't take for granted the current sort of momentum and price behavior, and it's the end of the world. I definitely wouldn't do that with my beautiful hair, right? So let's look at the daily momentum. The daily momentum, although as we said, it still is having some confluence, and arguably that is the mixture of bullish and bearish. We have the weekly. The weekly is the one that really tells us, wait, things are not over yet. Because even though we are in bearish territory, once we do have the confluence right here, we will probably end up with a bit of a corrective movement. Again, this is too far, too fast. So people who capitulate right now are doing the wrong thing. If you ask me, my opinion, not financial advice, right? Not a call for action. You do you. You should be an adult, manage your own portfolio. I'm just giving you my own point of view and analysis of the market. Remember, we still are in a broader downwards trend, but even here on the monthly, we can see some form of confluence. That confluence can lead to some form of serious correction. Now, does that mean we're going to go all the way back up? I don't think so. Oftentimes, what we end up doing with regards to our harmonic structures is basically retesting the previous major, stronger resistance, which arguably I would say resides roughly at around 164-ish. It does not mean we can, on a good day, not have slippage to 171.46. Now, is that conclusive? Is that certain? No. That's why you need to subscribe and put the notifications to everything, all the bell thingy, so otherwise you'll not be up to speed, but now we'll be able to analyze and see that, whether the momentum is shifting one way or another. Right now, of course, some of these things are not even certain yet. We may end up dipping even lower before we have a corrective move, but right now it does seem to be that we are residing roughly within between these levels of 130 and 137. As I've highlighted before, of course, there are multiple support and resistance levels within that vicinity, but 130 and 137 are our major support resistance levels, even if we do slip out up and down as we are revolving within the framework of that support and resistance these various support and resistance levels that come together to give almost this structure like phenomena. Now, of course, I'm not going to delete all of this, but you guys get the idea if you kind of follow up on what it is that I'm trying to say here, that those who are panicking too soon, those are the weakest of the bunch, of course, and they're capitulating. It makes sense. Now, I'm not telling anyone to not hold again. That's none of my business. All I am saying that it makes sense why the weaker of the bunch are capitulating earlier at that stage already. Arguably, they're actually smart, realizing that the price action will fall and the price will fall even lower. as it appears on a sort of bigger picture in the grander scheme of things. And by the way, yes, it all stems and goes eventually down to that larger time frame, which is that quarterly, which I've warned about many times. And yes, it took far longer than expected because it may start here, and we are dependent on how the market behaves overall, right? We need to have the market open the gates and allow the conditions for the individual assets to start breaking, or the investors to capitulate, if you will, right? Or traders as well. Traders are not interested in trading this, especially those who do not short sell, right? And those who are, of course, are probably celebrating, but even those need to be attentive to time and all sorts of other variables that make things a little bit more difficult. And in fact, that will be their downfall. The whole idea of timing the market, one thing I don't do in my community, those who don't know and think technical analysis equals timing the market, will not at all. It does not mean that at all. It means understanding. It's using various measuring tools, various measuring techniques, and things that are absolutely known all the way to back to the day of Jesse Livermore. Yeah, definitely Google that guy to try and understand who I'm talking about. So technical analysis is not this new age thing or rain dance that some people would like you to believe. In fact, it is basically the core math of the market, and it is the same equal to say that that is the prime language of the market. And yes, the better you understand it, guess what, the better you will be able to deal with the cyclicality, with overall sort of craziness, and just understand what the market is doing, really behave more so, not be dependent on anybody else's analysis, but really be independent. And just like myself right now here, analyzing the charts and understanding where the market is headed on the bigger picture of things, which most investors are interested in. So technical analysis is rarely associated with investors. It doesn't matter. Trader, investor, pony, call yourself whatever you like to. Everyone, pardon me for that, everyone needs to be able to know how to analyze the charts correctly. It is the prime language of the market. Without it, you're basically semi-blind to what's going on in the market with regards to your individual asset or your overall price action with regards to your indices and so on, right? Now, that's it. This is pretty much what I wanted to say. I highly recommend all of you not forgetting to watch the, like, subscribe, all that great stuff to be up to speed when the next video is coming up. On the grand scheme of things, yes, it still is the expectation to see the market and Palantir subsequently eventually end up far lower, as I've highlighted. We are talking about the 30s and 40s range right now. Maybe it will change follow-up, so we'll be up to speed. But for right now, that's it. That's all I had to say about Palantir, boys and girls. I hope to see you in the next one. And definitely, after this, go and watch my other video about the market. You'll understand the correlation and why we're expecting Palantir, even though Palantir is such a great company and all the good things I said about them and many things I haven't even thought of saying right now, still gonna suffer. It is the same thing as saying that my plant, my not plant as a production plant, but rather my flower is also pretty nice and dandy. But if you don't need to poison the flower directly or the plant, right? You need to poison the soil. If the soil is poisoned, then that flower within that soil cannot flourish. It will simply cannot thrive, right? It will wilt with the rest of everything unless it is designed to thrive. Now, we have spoke about how Palantir will not be dropping like a rock like many people imagine, and there's more to be understood with regards to cyclicality, harmonic patterns, support and resistance levels, momentum, and all sorts of wonderful things. But yes, at the end of it all, unfortunately, it seems that Palantir will end up low. See you on the next one. Bye for now.